Welcome to the part 2 of the tutorial on mastering working with objects in CorelDRAW. In this tutorial, we will look at the different ways to size, scale, skew, rotate, and mirror objects. We will also look at copying, duplicating, and deleting an object. We will go through moving an object, as well as positioning an object. Sizing an object means changing its width and height. When sizing an object, the changes to the width and height of the object are proportionate. Click on an object to select it. Then, grab any of the control handles on the corners of the bounding box, and drag the mouse outwards, or inwards, to increase or decrease the size of the object. The change in width and height of the object will be proportionate. For precise measurements, you can enter the exact width and height values in the Object Size field, in the Properties bar. Make sure this lock icon is enabled. Then enter your new width, or height value. I will enter 5 inches as my new width value, and press enter for a proportionate change. If you wish to size an object from its center, press and hold down the Shift key while dragging one of the corner control handles. In order to resize an object to a multiple of its original size, press and hold down the Control key, Command key on a Mac, and drag one of the corner control handles to resize. Here I have an object that has a width of 3 inches, and a height of 3 inches. I will press and hold down the Control key, Command key on the Mac, and grab a controlled handle in one of the corners, and drag the mouse outwards. When the object boundary outline snaps, I will release the mouse button as well as the Control key. The Object Size fields show the width and height values for the resized object. In my case, the object size has doubled. It is now 6 inches by 6 inches. You are able to size and stretch an object simultaneously. Press and hold the Alt key, then grab a control handle on one of the corners, and drag the mouse to resize, as well as stretch the object simultaneously. Object Origin gives you control over the direction of the change in the size of an object. This icon in the Properties bar is for Object Origin. Object Origin is another name for the anchor point of an object. By default, the anchor point of an object is set in the center of the object's bounding box, as you can see from the black square in the center of the Object Origin group. With the anchor point set in the center, if I enter values to resize the object, the change in size would be from the center. But, if I click on this square at the top left corner of the Object Origin icon to select it, I will move the Object Origin to the top left corner of the object's bounding box. This is confirmed by the fact that the square in the top left corner is now black in color. Now when I enter the new width or height values, the change in the size of the object will be from the top left corner, downwards towards the right. The Object Origin setting impacts the direction of change, when sizing, stretching, or scaling an object. You can also size an object using the Transformations docker. To access the Transformations docker, click on Window to open the drop-down menu. Scroll down and hover over Dockers. From the sub-menu, hover over Transformations, and from the sub-menu, click on Size to open the Transformations docker, with the size icon being active. Here, using the X and Y fields, you can resize an object by entering the desired width or height values for the object. In my case, I will enter the value of 5 in the X field, and make sure there is a check mark next to proportional, thus ensuring a proportional change in the size of the object. I will set the Object Origin to the upper right corner by clicking on this icon in this group of 9 choices. I will leave the Copies value as 0, and click Apply to complete the changes. Scaling an object means sizing an object to a percentage of its original size. Select the object, and from the Properties bar, in the Scale Factor field, enter the percentage by which you wish to scale the object. I will enter the value of 150% as the width scale factor, and press Enter. Or, from the Transformations docker, I will click on the icon for Scale and Mirror to enable it. I will type in a scale percentage value of 125% for X, in the Scale the Object Horizontally field. I will ensure that there is a check mark next to Proportional, and leave the anchor point in the center. Leave the value for copies as 0, and click Apply to complete the change. If you wish to apply the resizing to a duplicate of the object, while leaving the original unchanged, then change the value in the Copies field to the desired number of copies. I will change the scale percentage to 150. And make sure there is a check mark against the Proportional Change option. I will alter the number of copies to 1, and click Apply. As you can see that the original object remained unchanged, whereas its duplicate is 150% larger. Next, I will change the scale percentage to 125%. I will ensure there is a check mark against the Proportional Change option, and alter the number of copies to 2, and click Apply. You will notice that the first copy is 125% larger than the original. And the second copy is 125% larger than the first copy. We can mirror objects horizontally and vertically. Click to select an object. From the Transformations docker, under the Scale and Mirror option, I will change the scale percentage to 125. And the Keep checkmark next to the Proportional Change option. Then, I will click on this icon for Mirror horizontally to enable it. I will change the object origin setting to middle right. Change the copies value to 1, and click Apply, to create a horizontally mirrored copy that is 125% larger than the original object. Now, I am going to change the copies value to 2, leaving all the other values unchanged, and click Apply. You will notice that copy number 1 of the object is 125% larger than the original, and is horizontally mirrored to the original object. While copy number 2 of the object is 125% larger than copy number 1, and is horizontally mirrored to copy number 1 of the object. Next, I will click on this icon for Mirror horizontally to disable it, and click on Mirror vertically to enable it. I will change the object origin setting to lower center. Change the copies value to 1, and click Apply, to create a vertically mirrored copy that is 125% larger than the original object. Of course, if I make only one change to these values by clicking and enabling the Mirror horizontally icon, leaving everything else the same, and click Apply, I will have a horizontally and vertically mirrored copy that is 125% larger than the original object. There are a couple of ways you can rotate an object. Double-click on an object to select it and bring up the Skew and Rotation control handles. You will notice that the anchor point sits in the center of the bounding box. Grab a rotation control handle in one of the corners of the object and move it up, or down. The rotation takes place from the anchor point in the center. You can grab the anchor and move it elsewhere, inside or outside the bounding box. Grab a rotation control handle and move it up, or down, to rotate the object. The object will rotate around the anchor point. Or, from the Transformation docker, click on this icon for Rotate, to bring forward the value fields associated with rotating an object. Here you can set the degree of rotation you seek. I will select an object, and enter 25 degrees in the Angle of Rotation field. Next, I will click on this icon for Center. To ensure that the anchor point is set in the center of the object's bounding box, I'll leave the copies value at 0, and click Apply, to rotate this object anchored to the center of the bounding box. Next, I will select the second object on my page, and I will click on this icon for upper left, to set the anchor point at this upper left corner of the object's bounding box. I will leave all the other settings unchanged. Click Apply, To rotate this object anchored to the upper left corner of the bounding box. I will now change my rotation angle to -30 degrees, which is equivalent to 330 degrees. I want to apply this rotation to the duplicate, while leaving the original unchanged. And I want the rotation anchored to the lower right corner of the bounding box. For that, I will click on this icon to set the anchor to the lower right corner. Then I will change the number of copies to 1, and click Apply to create a duplicate that has been rotated by -30 degrees, which is equivalent to 330 degrees, while anchored to the lower right corner. The original remains unchanged. Let us try something else here. I will select an object and change the angle of rotation value to 30 degrees. I will set the anchor point to middle right by clicking on this icon for middle right. Next, I will change the copies value to 15. And click Apply. You can move an object and position it anywhere on the page. To do so, left-click and grab the object, and move it to the new desired position. Release the mouse button once done. Or, using the Object Position fields from the Properties bar, you can provide the exact coordinates by changing the X and Y values, and move the object to the desired position. I will enter 3 for the X value, and 7 for the Y value, and press Enter to move my object to the specified position. Or, select an object, and from the Transformations docker, click on this icon for position. Here, I will enter an X value of 4, and Y value of 6. I will make sure there is no check mark against relative position, and leave the anchor point set in the center. I will make sure the copies value is set to 0. And click Apply to position the object at the new coordinates. Now, I will place a check mark against relative position, and change the anchor point to upper left. Then I will change the copies value to 2, leaving all other values unchanged, and click Apply. This action creates 2 duplicates, each anchored to the upper left corner of the previous object. The original object remains unchanged. Now, I will select an object, and change the X value to -1 inch, and Y value to 0.75 inches, and the copies value to 5. I will leave all other values unchanged, and click Apply. I will end up creating 5 duplicate objects, each placed at a position offset by the specified values, compared to the previous object. To duplicate an object, select the object, and from the menu bar, click on Edit. Scroll down and click on Duplicate. Or, press Ctrl-D, Command-D on the Mac, to duplicate the object. When you press Ctrl-D to duplicate an object for the first time, the Duplicate Offset window pops up. Here you can specify the X and Y values by which you wish the duplicate object offset from the original. The default setting is 0.25 inches. This can be changed from the Options panel. Press Ctrl-J, Command-J on the Mac, to open the Options panel. Click on the triangle next to Document to open the drop-down menu. Scroll down and click on General, and from the right side of the panel, under the section Duplicate Offset, you can change the horizontal and vertical offset values. Click OK to accept the changes. You can also duplicate and offset using the Step and Repeat docker. To access the Step and Repeat docker, click on Window. Scroll down and hover your mouse over Dockers. From the submenu, click on Step and Repeat. To place and open the Step and Repeat docker in your Dockers bar, you can also press Ctrl, plus Shift, plus D to launch and open the Step and Repeat docker. From the horizontal settings section, click on this black arrow to open the drop-down menu, and click on Offset. In the Distance field, enter the value of 1 inch. Similarly, from the vertical settings section, click on the black triangle to open the drop-down menu, and click on Offset. Enter the value of 1 inch in the Distance field. In the Number of Copies field, enter the value of 1. and press Apply. This will create a duplicate of the object that is offset from the original object by 1 inch, both horizontally as well as vertically. Positive offset values for both X and Y will place the duplicate object up and to the right of the original object. A positive offset value for X and a negative value for Y will place the duplicate object down and to the right of the original object. And negative offset values for both X and Y will place the duplicate object down and to the left of the original object. A negative offset value for X and a positive value for Y will place the duplicate object up and to the left of the original object. To copy an object, select the object, and from the menu bar, click on Edit to open the drop-down menu. Scroll down and click on Copy. Or, you can press Ctrl-C, Command-C on the Mac, to copy the object. To cut an object, select the object, and from the Edit menu, scroll down and click on Cut, to cut and remove the object. You can also press Ctrl-X, Command-X on the Mac, to cut an object. To paste the copied or cut object, click on Edit, and from the drop-down menu, click on Paste. Or, press Ctrl-V, Command-V on the Mac, to paste the object. To delete an object, select the object and hit the Delete key on the keyboard. You can create multiple copies of an object and position each of them at a specific position. Select an object and click on the Step and Repeat Docker to open it. To distribute copies of this object horizontally, from the Horizontal Settings section, I will click on this black triangle to open the drop-down menu, and click on Spacing Between Objects. In the Distance field, I will type in a value of -1 inch, and from the Direction drop-down menu, I will choose Left. Then, from the Vertical Settings section, I will click on this black triangle to open the drop-down menu, and click on No Offset, and in the Number of Copies field, I'll enter the value of 5. Click Apply to create 5 copies of the object distributed horizontally. Similarly, to distribute copies of this object vertically, from the Horizontal Settings section, I will click on this black triangle to open the drop-down menu, and click on No Offset. Then, from Vertical Settings section, I will click on this black triangle to open the drop-down menu, and click on Spacing Between Objects. From the Direction drop-down menu, I will choose Up, and in the Distance field, I will type a value of -1.4 inches. Finally, in the Number of Copies field, I'll enter the value of 5. Click Apply to create 5 copies of the object distributed vertically. Now, from the Horizontal Settings section, I will click on this black triangle to open the drop-down menu, and click on Offset. In the Distance field, I will type in a value of -1 inch. And, from the Vertical Settings section, I will click on this black triangle to open the drop-down menu, and click on Offset. In the Distance field, I will type in a value of 1 inch. In the Number of Copies field, I'll enter the value of 5. Click Apply to create 5 copies of the object repeated at the offset values we had set. To skew an object, double-click on the object to select it and bring up the Skew and Rotation control handles. Now, you can grab a control handle on one of the horizontal sides, and drag it to the right, or to the left to skew the object horizontally. Similarly, to skew an object vertically, you can grab a control handle on one of the vertical sides and drag it up, or down to skew the object vertically. For a more precise skew angle, with the object selected, click on this black triangle in the bottom right corner of the Pick tool. To open the submenu, click on Free Transform to select it. From the Properties bar, click on this icon for Free Skew. And in the Skew Angle fields, enter the value for the horizontal skew angle, and the vertical skew angle. For the horizontal skew angle, I will enter a value of 15, and press Enter. And, for the vertical skew angle, I will enter a value of 20, and press Enter. Or, from the menu bar, click on Window to open the drop-down menu. scroll down and hover over Toolbars, and from the sub-menu, click on Transform to open the pop-up menu. Here, in the Skew Angle field, you can enter the value for the horizontal skew angle, and the vertical skew angle. Or, you can click on the Transformations Docker to open it, and click on this icon for Skew, to bring up the value of fields. I will enter 15 as the X value for the horizontal skew, and click on Apply to complete the horizontal skew. And enter 20 as the Y value for the vertical skew, and click on Apply to complete the vertical skew. To stretch an object, select the object to bring up the bounding box. Now, you can grab the controlled handle in the middle of one of the vertical sides of the bounding box, and drag it to stretch the object horizontally. Or, you can grab the controlled handle in the middle of one of the horizontal sides of the bounding box, and drag it to stretch the object vertically. If you wish to stretch the object in width, as well as in height, then press and hold down the Alt key, and grab one of the control handles on the corners of the bounding box, and drag it to stretch the object in width, as well as in height. Or, using the object size fields in the Properties bar. Make sure the lock ratio is disabled, and enter the new dimensions for the width, as well as the height of the object. I will enter a value of 10 in the width field, and 6 in the height field, and press Enter to complete the stretch. Or, from the Transformations Docker, click on this icon for Size, to bring up the value of fields. If there is a check mark next to Proportional, click on the box to remove it. You can control the direction of the stretch by using an anchor point from the anchor point group. I am going to click on this icon for upper left to select it. This means that the stretch will occur from the top left corner of the object, and flow downwards towards the right. I will enter a new X value of 10 for the horizontal stretch, and a Y value of 7 for the vertical stretch, and click on Apply to complete the vertical stretch. I will repeat this step, by entering 8 as my X value, and 7 as my Y value. I will keep the anchor point in the upper left, but will change the copy's value to 1, and click Apply. Our original object remains unaltered, but we have a duplicate object reflecting the stretch values we entered for the width and height of the duplicate object. That brings us to the end of part 2 of the tutorial on mastering working with objects in CorelDRAW. Please take your time exploring objects, and get familiar with all its features and capabilities. Next, we will learn about creating objects from enclosed areas, applying fills to areas, creating a boundary around selected objects, and using object coordinates to draw and modify objects. We will also learn about copying object properties, transformations, and effects. And we will learn about cloning objects. To learn about these tools, please access the Mastering Working with Objects in CorelDRAW, Part 3 tutorial. Or, click on the link provided below, in the description of this video. To access the previously published tutorials, please click on the links provided below for those tutorials, in the description of this video.